the Spittballin Sports Show. I'm your host, Brad Ryder. Next to me, or below me, is my co-host, Erik Lind. And in the back, we've got our boy, Brandon Davis, a.k.a. Diesel. Say hi.
What's up?
Oh, man. Holy crap, guys. We're coming off a crazy fucking week of football. Erik, I want you to kind of start us off with this Alabama-Texas game that we experienced on the college football side this week.
So easily game of the week. I mean, obviously, you got number one Texas, or number one Alabama, excuse me. Number one Texas, it's years ago. It's years ago, my bad. Number one Alabama rolling into Austin. I mean, it was, I think, so my initial thought right after the game was over, if Texas is starting quarterback, Quinn Ewers?
Ewers.
I don't know exactly.
Ewers.
If he stays in the game, Texas wins by a score,
Easily.
maybe two. But Texas's defense was kind of scary good. Stopping reigning Heisman winner Bryce Young, they were good, and it was a 1-point game. And then I feel like people kind of, I mean, at least myself, I kind of knew the game was going to be in Alabama's hands when Texas went up 19-17 with a minute and a half left. They gave Bryce Young way too much time with that. And I was like, this is Bryce Young. This guy's going to get down the field. Sure enough, he did. Bama had their kicker. They ended the game. But, I mean, it was a fantastic game. And that it really, makes you, is Texas actually back? You know? Are they back?
Don't start that. But honestly, no, this was the best that a Texas team has looked. At least since you and I kind of were in school. But, even then, it's been the best they've looked since Colt McCoy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I think you're 110% right. If Quinn stays in that game, this is a very different game. You look at it, Alabama's coming off of what their fans call a rebuilding year, which because they weren't number one, they weren't necessarily the best team, so they're oh, it's a rebuilding year, and yet they still looked a little sloppy. It just looked like it wasn't tightened up completely in my mind.
Yeah, and I think Saban, when they got back into that locker room, Saban was we won, but you guys are awful. And their next 3 games, they're going to cover their spread and then double their spread and cover it. That's how they're going to – it's going to be Alabama football again. But I think that might have just been some early season rust for Alabama. Maybe they just took Texas too lightly. And I think Texas, this was their national championship, if you will. So I think, I don't know. I think Alabama will be just fine. I think Texas has a really good shot. If they continue to play like they did last week, they have a good shot at making, I don't want to say making a name for themselves, but,
Absolutely.
They have a good shot at getting to the Big 12 championship game.
100%. I mean, if Texas could, they can't go undefeated, but if they win every game out from this point, you can easily make a argument if they're the only one-loss team that would make the CFP.
They'd slide in as number 4. Barring any other circumstance, they would be the number 4 seed if they were to win out and then win the Big 12 with that.
The only way they don't is if Alabama, Georgia, and USC and Ohio State all go undefeated. That's the only way they don't. And so, in my mind, I don't think that's probable, but that's, in my mind, the only way that they don't make it to the college football playoff.
It's the first time I've seen Texas actually because we hear year in, year out, Texas has the number 1, number 2 recruiting class in the Big 12. We finally saw that come to fruition in this game. And even though they lost, they still look good. They still granted, they lost their starting quarterback after he threw for 134 yards in the first quarter. But,
like you were saying, if he stays on that pace, 3 more quarters, I mean, you're talking someone's doing 400, 500 yards in that game easy. It's kind of hard to beat that without Bryce having to then come out and have a similar game. And it just didn't look like that was going to be what happened in that game. He can easily have those 500-yard games, but in that game with how good Texas's defense looked, like you were talking about, there was no way that I felt like that was going to be the game that we were going to have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all in all, good game for Texas. I mean, Bama, they've got some stuff to work on, but I mean, they're going to be fine. It's Alabama.
I feel like we all came out of that game knowing more about how good Texas was versus how bad Alabama might have been in that game.
Dude.
Yeah.
Xavier Worthy and Jatavion Sanders are matchup nightmares for the Big 12. Sanders is not a tight end. I don't care what they say. He's not a tight end. That dude's a receiver.
I mean, he's as much of a tight end as Kyle Pitts is,
when I immediately saw Xavier Worthy and how he was torching the Alabama secondary, I was like, dude, this guy's he's gonna have like 2,500 receiving yards this year if he keeps this up. Like, if he has someone that can get him the ball, he's crazy.
Especially Whittington, that jump ball receiver can stay healthy too. Dude, oh my god, that offense. Bijan Robinson, too. I mean, what?
Sleeper also, Heisman candidate Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, other too. For someone who was high on Will Anderson going into the year, dude, that man kind of got exposed.
He had
so many offsides, bro.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He had offsides and he had a personal. I think he had like 45 yards of penalties.
Just him
himself.
Yeah, he did
something ridiculous like that. But I mean,
he was pretty bad.
But I mean, I knew when it was a minute 27. But that play that Bryce Young ducked from that corner blitz.
That was a game changer.
I was like, dude, there's a reason why. There's a reason why.
Realistically,
there's a reason why he's a winning quarterback. I mean, the guy's good.
Yeah.
He's got that dog in him.
Yep,
he's that guy.
That was when, realistically, you look at that play. You knew Bryce Young had too much time, but that corner blitz gets off and he gets sacked there. That kind of changes the whole pace and leaves it open for Texas to win that game. Him making that play, you just kind of like, yep, here they go. They're gonna win.
Yeah.
Crap.
Right after he made that play, I was like, well, yeah, that corner just lost Texas the game. Sorry about it, but that's all it was.
Yeah. So I want to bounce. We've got a couple of other upsets, couple small upsets that were not as big a game as you probably would have watched, but things that happen. I mean, you've got Marshall over Notre Dame, which is a big one because Notre Dame's in the top 10, but I feel like nobody who wasn't a Notre Dame fan was watching that game. If you were a Notre Dame fan, you're watching the game. But otherwise, nobody else was watching that game until we saw the score, and we were like, oh,
yeah, we're like,
crap.
Wait a minute. I don't know. That game was, I saw the upset alert on my phone, and I was like, really? Notre Dame's going to lose another one? I mean, so they had the loss to Oklahoma State with their new head coach, and then they faced Ohio State, and you're like, okay, they kind of played Ohio State well. They looked all right. And then you come out in your first home game and you lose to Marshall, and now that's when the sirens start going off if you're Notre Dame.
100%. And also, if you look at the way that game was, Notre Dame never had the lead. Had the lead at all. And so it was okay, that's what's nerve-wracking to me, is that if you can't even have the lead, it isn't we had the lead and we lost it because we started getting too conservative, our defense started having to play more, stuff like that. That's one thing. But when you never had the lead at all,
you literally lost the game.
You lost the game.
You actually lost the game
from that first score that they got. You just never came back and won it for yourself. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with, I think, the upset that you watched the most, and the one that hits most of me with my whole family being Baylor grads, was this Baylor BYU loss. They never had the lead.
No, I mean, I only really got to watch the second half and then overtime of that game, and if Baylor plays the way they did in that second half and in that overtime against any Big 12 opponent, they deserve to lose. In the second overtime, they had to go get a touchdown. It's like they didn't trust their quarterback that literally won them a Big 12 championship.
Literally,
he was the starting quarterback when they won the Big 12 championship, and they ran 7 straight run plays in double overtime, and they ended up losing the game because they got stopped on a fourth down on a pass play. But it was the
passing before fourth down. You can't realistically expect that to happen.
It was some of the worst football I have watched from a defending champion, defending conference champion, should I say. It was really bad. And then the kicking was terrible in that game, too. I think there were a couple of missed field goals in that game as well. But, I mean, BYU looked good. I mean, newcomer to the Big 12. They can make things interesting in the Big 12. They had, the crowd stayed there the whole way through. It was a good crowd into double overtime.
Mm-hmm.
They stormed the field after, too, which was, an initial reaction for me was like, why are they storming the field when they just beat number 9? Like, it's whatever. It's a cool win. But then again, Oklahoma State was ranked higher than OU last year, and we stormed the field when we won Bedlam. But,
that's a whole different thing because that's a rivalry for us, right? Like that's a bloodbath. That is a rivalry that has been the basis of Oklahoma sports for a long time too. Mm-hmm. So like us storming that field, that just made sense in that situation.
Just felt good.
What really I feel like for them was BYU's always kind of been one of those teams. It's like ebb and flow, like they're kind of good.
They're in a weak conference, so like you can never really get a good gauge on them.
And so, and then they never really feel like they beat anybody, right? So now here comes number 9 Baylor, Big 12 championship, someone who realistically took a team that could have an Oklahoma State team that was like the most realistic one to go to a college football playoff, and you knock them off. And make it to where nobody goes from the Big 12 at that point. Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden you go and you beat that team pretty handedly up until like the very end there. But sure you were tied, but you had the lead most throughout that game if you're BYU. So you're feeling pretty good coming out of that. Fans will storm the field when they feel like they beat somebody. Storm the court when you beat somebody.
It's good for BYU. They're coming into the Big 12. I think it's next year, right, where they get added to the Big 12. So,
22, because they're coming in a year before the other guys.
Because I think they're coming in next year, and then Texas and OU leave the year after.
That makes sense. That's what makes the most sense. So, yeah.
That'd be good. But Baylor's run defense was really good.
Yeah.
Honestly. Baylor's run defense was great. They held BYU to 33 carries for 83 yards. And BYU had 3 different guys carry the ball. None of them got over 30 yards except for one, and it took them 13 carries.
Yeah.
Baylor's always been that team with, you got this big front, but it's just a matter, it's just like a question mark in the secondary. But, now it's a question mark on their offense.
You kind of wonder that. They didn't really have a whole lot of offensive pieces, I felt like, leave, though. You had the defensive players leave, but I didn't feel like a lot of their offensive pieces left. So now I'm wondering if either this is knocking rust off, or if maybe this is a little bit of that hangover where you're coming off the championship and they won their bowl game, and so then they're coming off the hangover from that, being like, oh man, we gotta remember how to do this.
Yeah, we'll see in 2 weeks. When they take on Oklahoma State. They're welcoming Oklahoma. Their Big 12 opener is in Waco against, right now, a top 10 team in Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Who's going to be 3-0 going into that matchup.
Absolutely. And
barring absolute disaster. But
I don't think they, in Oklahoma State, it's still going to be a top 10 team. I don't think they're going to drop just because they're playing Arkansas Pine Bluff this week.
No. At worst, and ranked 9. But,
Yeah, if someone has a crazy good performance and it warrants them switching that, then okay.
Which is fair. Totally fair.
Yeah. You're not going to have 2, though. Especially not this week as we were looking at next week's games. Another weird one. Talking about running the ball. Freaking Washington State and Wisconsin. I just don't think there were passes thrown this game. I was watching this game. That's a lie. There was. The Wisconsin quarterback had 230 yards and 2 touchdowns. He passing. So it was he had that there, but it felt like it was such a bloodbath game where it was just constantly running the ball, feeling like we're just beat 'em up football. And it was. You kind of said it, and they kind of said it on the air too when you're watching the game. Washington State said, Wisconsin, you can do what you do, and we're going to beat you at it.
Yeah, Washington State went to Wisconsin and said, we're going to beat you at your own game. And they did.
And they did.
Wisconsin ran the ball almost 50 times, and Washington State was like, all right, do it. We're still going to end up beating you because we're from the Pac-12. We know how to throw the ball here. That's a crazy concept, I know, but we know how to do it. And, they struggled a little bit. Their quarterback threw 2 picks, but they didn't run the ball that well because, what do you – Wisconsin – the Big Ten teams are built in the trenches. You're going to have to throw to beat them. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, Washington State did that, and they made the plays on defense as well to do it too. But that game, I had to turn that game off. I could not watch that game.
It was the only one
I could not watch it.
TV at the time that I could watch. I feel like at least the last quarter of it, like it was the only one that was still going. So it was like, man, I don't want to have to sit here and watch this, but it's the only football on until the Oklahoma State game later. So
it was a very, very rough game to watch. But I mean, good for Washington State. I mean, you make the Pac-12 look good, going to a ranked Big Ten opponent and beating them in their house. I mean, a team we thought was going to be a top team in the Big Ten, losing to a unranked Pac-12 team, and I can't say Washington State looked good. I mean, there were plenty of mistakes that they made, but Wisconsin looked even worse.
Exactly. I feel like it was kind of what it was, like who could make the least mistakes, and that was Washington
while making plenty of mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't about who made the better. It was just who made less mistakes at the end of the day.
Was
less
really
big
all it
mistakes.
It was bad football.
It was not great, but looking around at just at this, we had a bunch of them too. Just some quick hitters. You had the Texas Tech Houston upset.
Another future Big 12 matchup.
Exactly, but that was one you could see happen. Like, it wasn't.
100%.
You didn't look at that game and think, "There's no way." Like, there was absolutely a way. Tennessee, Pitt. I mean, everyone's high on Tennessee this year. Their offense looks really good. Kind of expected that they would at least give Pitt a run for their money. Also, being without Kenny Pickett, you could have looked at that and said, "All right, they're gonna probably lose that game." I was trying to think. Kentucky, Florida, again, same thing. Everyone was high on the Kentucky offense this year, and I think they just kind of came out and showed it.
Me included.
Yeah.
Call that shit.
You said that. You did. You called that shit.
I also called out that Jimbo Fisher was going to be his head coach.
Oh, yeah. We got to talk about A&M Appalachian State here. Man, what the hell?
Embarrassing.
That was one of the last things I expected.
Actually embarrassing.
Is somebody who, first off, I mean, like, one of Jimbo Fisher's biggest criticisms going into this year is if you're someone who doesn't like NIL, that you were like, he just basically bought his whole team. Like, that's at least the statement that's made, right? And then you go out and you lose to Appalachian State.
You lose to an App State team that just lost 63-61 to North Carolina. They gave up 63 points.
And you can only score 14.
You go to A&M and you only score 4. They only score 14.
I think we can all agree there's no way that North Carolina's offense is that much better.
Was it the adjustment of the century on defense by App State, or was it just A&M just being awful?
I think it's more of A&M being awful than the defense. A&M's defense is legit. Like, they have a 12-0 defense and a 3-9 offense. That's what they have. Haynes King. The dude was rated as a 4-star quarterback coming out of Texas. I don't know how, but he has no pocket awareness, and I don't know. It's just, I feel like that there's a reason why the A&M brought in Melson to come visit the campus as well, because that quarterback who's committed to USC. Because, man, I'm telling you, a prototypical quarterback is not going to be the answer for Jimbo's offense if Jimbo is still the coach after this year.
I mean, sticking with the A&M, I know you were going with that, Brad. I know you were going with that. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
A&M's offense scored 1 touchdown that game. Their other touchdown was a kickoff return.
Yeah.
For a touchdown. That's terrible.
I mean, especially if you're talking about a defense that just gave up 63 points to North Carolina.
Yeah, going back to that too.
Saying North Carolina is good or that their offense is any good. So why the heck are you only getting 1 offensive touchdown? Is it Jimbo Fisher's scheme? Like, is his offense if his offensive scheme fucking the same as Wisconsin or some shit like that? Like, is that what we're playing right now?
And the ball off, let's see what we can do with it.
And the trenches, boys. I'm like, no, like that's not you can't win games that way. Sometimes that was one that way, but
he is an untested quarterback with untested running backs. That offense is young, even though they're talented, they're young, and they have a lot of pressure on them too because they're playing for A&M.
Yeah,
which is and it's just, people want to say everything about Texas. A&M, just there's as much as pressure to those A&M players than there is for the Texas players.
Basically, yeah, it was like
So
Texas and A&M both have huge fan bases and huge booster bases that are going to put a fuck ton of pressure on those kids.
Yeah.
So no, I think you're also right on that. We're gonna have to wait and let this Texas A&M team mature a little bit and see how much Jimbo sticks with those guys, or how much, if Jimbo gets fired, who comes in will stick with those guys, because that is a highly rated recruiting class that you can build around and really develop. It's just the question of if Jimbo's the guy for that.
well, they got a week to figure out because a pretty good Miami team's coming into College Station.
Yeah, they got Miami, and then they got Arkansas, and then 2 weeks after Arkansas, they got Bama.
Fuck. Good luck.
So
Didn't they beat Alabama last year, though?
They
Maybe
beat
they did.
Alabama
I mean,
last year with a backup quarterback.
that backup quarterback that's now at Auburn.
Yeah. That's why Bo Nix is in Oregon.
yeah. Texas A&M has a tough schedule.
Yeah.
They've got, as of right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more games against top 25 opponents.
Good luck. Good fucking luck. That they're not going to be
Jesus.
top 25 by the end of this year, probably at that rate, unless if they win a couple of.
They're not going to be top 25 after next week. I mean, everything they
You're
expected.
right.
Yeah, Miami's gonna beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But so we're talking about Jimbo possibly getting fired. Nebraska fired Scott Frost this week.
About time.
They weren't even willing to wait one more week and not have to pay him $7.5 million. They said, "Fuck it, we'll pay you the money. Get out of our building."
At this point, can you blame him?
It might be worth it. You might
Can
win.
you blame him at this point?
I don't know if you'll win against OU next week. You might as well kept him to blame him for the loss. But
I still think them leaving the Big 12 was the worst thing they did.
that was the worst thing they could
Because
do.
they destroyed a pipeline. Because they had a lot of their talent was from Oklahoma and Texas when they were building their school talent back in the 90s, and now where are they getting it from?
Nowhere.
Nebraska.
Same place
Kansas.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Big Ten's getting it, but all the other Big Ten school, like the Big
Get all
Ten
the better players.
teams,
so they
get all the better players because why would we want to go to Nebraska?
Exactly.
Sure, they have a fan base, but do they win football games? No.
No.
Like a Bill
Not at
like a Bill Cow running back would not want to go to Nebraska. He'd rather go to Wisconsin or Ohio State than even think about going to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
Sure,
Who
I
was
can
the
get
last
that.
decent Nebraska player to come out of Nebraska? Who was the last decent player to come out of there?
Probably some O lineman or some random.
Probably
offensive
Zoo.
lineman.
I was like,
Who
the
was
only
it?
person.
the Kamago Zoo.
Oh,
That's probably the last
Just
decent
lineman.
one.
The
I
last
mean,
great player, I think, was Ndamukong. Yeah, I mean, you've got other players that I can think of that came out of there. Like I think of Will Compton and some people like that were like a linebacker out of Nebraska, stuff like that. But man, I can't name enough people that actually came out. There's a couple. I feel like there's someone I'm missing that's like in the league right now that came from Nebraska, but I can't remember off the top of my head. No, it's just like they're bad. They are really bad. It is.
I feel for them because every year they come in like maybe this could be our year. And when I was actually out in Nebraska, I was in Western Nebraska for an internship, and my host family out there, big Nebraska fans, huge Nebraska fans, always
What
talked
else do you have
about.
to root for there?
What's that?
I said, what else do you have to root for there? Like, let's be honest.
Wyoming. They're close to Laramie, but you don't want to root for Wyoming. They always talk about Nebraska this, Nebraska that. The fan base is great. The atmosphere is great. And I say, okay, how's the team? They just year in, year out mediocrity. So maybe a coaching change will change that. But not this year. Obviously, it's going to be the same Nebraska. But I don't know. It's tough for them because that's all Nebraska has going for it is literally the University of Nebraska football.
Yeah. It's like none of their other sports teams are even remotely decent. So that's that.
Yeah.
Once football season ends, that's it. And this year, no Nebraska fan is showing up to that game sober or leaving that game sober because it's going to be such a miserable experience. That's the only way they can have fun.
You can't blame them.
Who do you guys think will be the next coach?
Oh Lord,
I can't tell you.
Some people are already saying Urban Meyer. Do you really want to bring that guy in?
I
Urban
saw
Meyer.
that. That was funny. That's just the worst case scenario.
I think if shit hits the fan in Carolina, I see Matt Rule going back to college. And that'll be a big landing spot for him.
Really?
I could see that happening if Carolina doesn't if they end up firing him because they're kind of tired of the shit. I
Yeah.
could see that happening. You know, I mean, I know somebody who would do. I feel like there's someone who could do like fairly well there. I just think that it's a little too soon. I think let's get Coach O another opportunity. Like, let's,
Oh my god, bro!
I can see.
I think that man is choice. I think he chose retirement.
I mean, I can't blame
He
him.
took his $17 million buyout and ran with it, and he's not coming back.
But I mean, if he was one of those people that like loved football and like he just wanted to get back behind the headset, like go to Nebraska.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation one way or another. Either you get to go coach football, and you're gonna go coach at a school that like historically is a big fucking football school, and will probably pay you, and they aren't expecting you to in your first 2 years go win the goddamn Big Ten or anything. They just want to win a fucking season.
It's like loading up Madden and saying, "All right, what's a terrible team I can go rebuild?" And that's what you're going to do, except you're going to get paid for it.
Yeah, the Chicago Bears. What?
Yeah. Oh. We'll get there.
It's okay, man. We want to know. That's all that matters.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We do have a little bit of time left, so for college. So I do want to, before we hit our games of the week next week, I do want to talk about the Oklahoma State game, since that's where we're all from. Man, it was, Eric, you and I were texting the whole game, like just constantly.
It was like cardiac Cowboys until the fourth quarter. Honestly,
yeah.
That offense looked a lot like last year's offense, which scared me. But the defense actually showed up, which was good. I mean, aside from a couple big plays, I mean, the run defense, is going to step up, but the secondary, they weren't bad. There were a couple big plays where I was like, oh my God, like this is the same thing as last week. Then they ended up showing up making plays. The D-line obviously just like startled the quarterback, and if your defensive line can get into the head of the opposing quarterback and they don't give him enough time to make these downfield throws, then I see Oklahoma State with a really good shot at winning. But it's a matter of the opposing quarterback play, really. Because the secondary is going to have to get picked up by the defensive line or carried by the defensive line, at least for Oklahoma State's defense.
For right now.
In my opinion. Because their run defense is great. We can make teams one-dimensional, but that one-dimensional pass team can beat Oklahoma State's secondary at this point, in my eyes.
There's still a little bit of to be desired from the secondary, but I think we can get that with a little bit of time. I mean, like it is a new defensive coordinator. It is
with a young secondary,
very young secondary. Like that's just kind of what you expect. We were talking about running the football, and I was texting you the whole time. I felt like it was like run the damn ball. That's what this offense was. Fucking even when Mason Rudolph and like Brandon Whedon was here, like we had a running back and we ran the dang ball. That's what you did.
You always had that bell cow running back.
And it felt like we didn't run the ball until the second quarter. Like we just kept trying to be fancy and play, like pass. Like, let's let Spencer see what Spencer can do. And it's like, we know what Spencer can do. Let's run the ball and try and
we
win
got
the
to
damn
establish
game.
this.
I don't like the run plays their second half, because why would you try to risk injuring him when the game's already kind of out of the way?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, that's my thing. Like, Dominic Richardson was running the ball well enough, and he let him run it, or get Ollie Gordon some more reps. That's how I felt about it.
I wish Ollie Gordon would be good too.
The game was really out of hand until the fourth quarter. I mean, Spencer Sanders, he's just like a good addition to the run game because he gives you another option. And I feel like if Oklahoma State ran like more plays with their cowboy backs or whatever they call them, tight ends is traditional.
Yeah.
Just put it in the backfield,
If we like it's so many different options with that, but we just keep it super simple with like the read option or the pitch option to Richardson. Oklahoma State scored a touchdown like that, where they had Sanders bluff the pitch to the outside to Richardson and cut in for a touchdown. I think if we ran more like RPOs, like even RPOs, but then you think like then the quarterback has to make a read, and we know Spencer Sanders, from what we've seen last year and even in this game,
we've seen him in an RPO offense.
It's tough to like make a read against zone coverage for him at least.
We saw him in an RPO offense the first year that he played. They did a lot of that RPO kind of look, and we saw a lot of. I mean, that's where the fear of like, oh God, he's throwing picks again, comes from. Is that first year? So No, I kind of agree with you, Diesel, but I also think some of those plays weren't necessarily designed. It was just that the way that the offensive line like shifted once the play started, he didn't feel comfortable, and so instead of trying to scramble out of the pocket and trying to extend the play, he just said, "I'm just going to run it," because he can
Get us
rely
any
on
sort of
that from
yard.
himself and be like, "All right, I'm going to go get these 5, 6, 8, 10 yards or whatever, and then we can, try next one. No worries."
Which is good. Which is shown like
That
in
is
his
such a
fifth year.
maturity from him.
Signs of mature. I was going to say exactly signs of maturity because the old Spencer, like maybe year 2, 3, would try to like dance around in the backfield and make a play out of it. Instead, you say, "All right, I'm going to go get these yards. I'm going to take these 5, 6 yards." Sets us up for whatever we want on 2nd and 5, 3rd and 4, something like that.
Exactly.
Makes it easy. It gives us so many options. But I think
Yeah.
Sanders can develop. Sorry, Diesel. I think Sanders can develop more if he picks up zone coverage or if we open the playbook a little more. I don't know if we want to like show all of the plays because like I feel like the offense was super basic in this game and the last, and I feel like it'll be super basic next week, but it won't really matter because we're playing an FCS team. I mean, we're going to blow them out of the water just with talent alone.
Yeah.
I think we'll hopefully see the playbook open up against Baylor, and we'll see more plays that we're not used to seeing from this Oklahoma State offense.
I think you can easily see that. Go ahead, Diesel.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I feel a lot better about this team after week 2 than I did week 1.
Yes.
100%. 100%.
But I know next week really won't matter. I mean, unless something catastrophic happens. But like,
Don't even start with it.
Don't even jinx that. Don't even jinx that right now. Right?
But like, I don't know. I feel pretty confident with the team so far. They don't. There is a glaring issues, but like that's stuff you can fix now. That's something you can't fix during October. So
yeah, it's glaring issues that can be worked on in the next game.
Yeah.
And like talked about throughout the season.
Yeah.
It's not like it's issues that can be fixed. It's not like, oh my god, this team is horrible. We need like a complete overhaul. It's we know the team has talent. We just need to show it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like not really. There's no, like Baylor's not going to be really that big of a challenge. I feel offensively for them. Maybe Tech, maybe TCU, but
K-State maybe.
Yeah,
but I feel like K-State's majority running, and we know Oklahoma State can stop the run.
We saw that.
Like the only game I can see their offense defense, might get exposed big time is probably against Texas.
Xavier Worley's gonna get 300 yards receiving, and
dude, I feel bad for who linebacker is going to cover Sanders because that man's not going to have a good time.
Yeah, if they're all they're new linebackers too. It's not like it's Malcolm Rodriguez out there.
You know, Rodrigo.
He had a good debut. He had a good debut in Detroit.
He hip check and threw Jason Kelsey like for Christ's
Saw that? That was awesome.
That was great. Erik, let's bounce to this upcoming week for college football. We've got a little bit of time left on this. I'm looking at this next week, looking at like potential, upset potential. Like, oh, this person's gonna, upset this, cause a big deal.
Yeah.
Looking at this, I think you and I can both agree. Michigan State, Washington. We're looking at this like that's a game that can.
That one's interesting.
Easily. You expect Michigan State to win, but if Washington puts on any kind of performance like they can and like they have in some years past, this game could be a lot closer than it looks.
The problem with UW is they're just so they can never win the big game. They're always consistent. Like they win the games they should. They don't win the games you don't really expect them to win or the toss-ups.
Yeah.
And I know about them because my grandpa's a big UW fan, so I kind of tune into their games every now and then. But, I mean, they're favored by 3.5 this week. It's a home game. You're facing number 11 Michigan State. But I think, I personally think Michigan State will take care of business here.
Yeah.
Just because Washington hasn't really, like I said, been known to win that big game or, make the statement in the Pac-12 like they've been expected to the last few years.
I think I would agree with that. I think kind of like what I was saying, where I was like, you expect Michigan State to win this game.
Yeah.
If Washington makes it a close game, I'm not surprised.
No. But
they came out and kind of played that game that we know they can. Also looking BYU, Oregon. BYU just had this great week against Baylor. Now you go up against an Oregon team that I think is still trying to kind of find their identity.
Yeah. It's a good look for Oregon if they win this game.
It is. It's a really good look if they win this game.
Yeah.
Do I think they can? I don't know. I guess I come back down to it. If BYU goes and wins by more than 3, I'm kind of like, okay, like I can expect that given what BYU has shown us this year.
Mm-hmm.
If you win by a field goal, if you win in overtime, if you have another overtime game like you just had with Baylor, like I look at it and say I'm not that worried about it. If Oregon gets an overtime win, then it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
This team can go the miles. This team can go the lengths.
Yeah, I mean, opening week you play number 3 Georgia, and you're getting bounced 49-3. Like that initially, that's just Georgia. That's just, we'll give Georgia that. But like, were you saying a team trying to find its identity? Yeah, I mean they come out and they score 70 points this week. Again, granted against a completely lesser team, but I mean that has to give you some sort of momentum going into this game, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're coming home against a ranked team. Like you have your flashy uniforms. Like you have the confidence. You just scored 70 points.
You've got this momentum of, okay, our offense was humming last week. Our defense probably played pretty decent. I didn't watch the game, but defense is probably playing pretty decent. Now you've got a team coming in that's riding a high as well. Not necessarily because their offense played super great, because they had the lead the whole way and let Baylor catch up.
They were able to game manage a win, and then
they were able to
their defense was able to make a statement in overtime. Yeah.
So now you're coming in with all this momentum against a team that is about managing the game. You have a real shot if you come out hot of just kind of running away with it. But you have to come out hot and stay hot.
Yeah, it's definitely an afternoon. This is probably the game I'll watch the full way through, unless it gets out of hand, because it's really the only other game that's.
Yeah.
I mean, amongst the ranked teams, that's a really good game. And I love my Pacific Northwest teams. Like it's tough to hate them. It's my favorite region in the nation. So, I think it'll be a fun game to watch, especially between two teams that are like right there in the sense that if BYU gets this win, they're a top 10 team. You'd have to think, right?
You would hope. Like if worst case, you're 11, right? You just move up 1 depending on what happens above you. But you would have to think, right, that they move up at that point. And if you're Oregon, you kind of bounce back from being ranked 25 up into the, top 15 scope, at least. That's a pretty good spot to be in going into conference play.
It's a, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's like a season rejuvenation for Oregon and like an accelerant for BYU. It's a big game for game 3 of the season for both these teams. Yeah, it should be a good
100%. 100%. All right. Hitting that point, I want to bounce to the pro league. I want to bounce to the men's league.
Not the boys league.
Not saying that's the boys league necessarily, but I want to bounce over to the NFL because this week, this is one of the craziest first weeks of the NFL I think I've seen.
But NFL's back, baby.
NFL's back, and it's back with all of its what the fuck moments, dude.
Like the Bears starting 1-0. There's a what the fuck moment.
Hey, whoa, there's a moment.
Exactly. 1-0. That's all that matters.
That game was hell to watch.
Let me tell you something. Everyone's gonna blame the weather, but the Niners were only up 10-0 before the weather got really bad. So I mean, really, I'm not gonna the weather did play a part, but I mean, come on. You only put up 10-0. You're supposed to be a Super Bowl caliber team, and you keep on letting the team hang on. You kind of deserve to lose like that.
You're a Super Bowl caliber team if your backup quarterback is playing.
Yeah, true.
No offense to Trey Lance, but like right now, I'm not gonna say the Niners are a Super Bowl caliber team because he's the quarterback, right? And I'm counting.
You gotta give him a chance.
I'm gonna give.
This was his first chance, and he just played in hell in Chicago.
Hold on, let me finish. I'm not counting this game as a knock against Trey Lance because of the weather, because of everything that, like, with that game. I'm not saying, oh, Trey Lance is bad. What I'm saying is that, like, that team is a Super Bowl caliber team with Jimmy G, and that's how it has been for the past couple years. I get it. New quarterback, younger quarterback. He could come out and light the goddamn world up, and they could go into the Super Bowl. Great. I'm not counting them as a Super Bowl caliber team yet.
That's fair.
Until I see a real game from Trey. Because I felt like this game, Kyle Shanahan just kind of pulled the reins back once that rain started coming in.
That was hell.
That was...
Like, literally watching it, it was like the vision was... Or the camera was blurred or fogged out from the rain.
Dude, yeah.
That was
Yeah,
insanity.
I mean, it was getting really bad in the fourth.
That was a noon game, right?
Yeah, it was a noon game.
Yeah.
It was early. It was early game.
Yeah.
Who did I have? I watched Cleveland, Panthers, and
That game was hell, too.
that game was abysmal. And I forgot what the other one was off the top. Eagles Lions was the other one. That was the game I was
That was a good
watching.
game.
That was the game.
That was a good game.
I was actually
That was
watching
good.
that game.
So my thoughts from that game was give the ball to DeAndre Swift
Every fucking
every
play.
single play. Like, come on. I mean, I'm not saying that just because he's my fantasy running back, but holy hell, dude
Mine
had
too, but-
144 yards on 15 carries, and they didn't give him the goal line carries. Tough for the fantasy, but like that offense is good.
It was, and I was one of the first things that, like, I noted. I was like, wait a minute, Jared Goff is running like a really good offense right now.
They scored 35 points on a team
35.
that's supposed to make the
He
playoffs.
threw touchdowns. Like, what? Like, he threw one to Chark, and I even tweeted. I was like, holy shit, what was that? Like, we didn't see anything like that from DJ Chark when he was in Jacksonville. And he goes out and he catches this, like, toe drag right into the pocket with a corner, like, up over
Draped over him,
And
yeah.
it's like, where did that come from? I was so impressed by that team. I like the Eagles. I have them as, like, one of the best teams in the NFC for me. But man, I was rooting for the Lions like that game. 'Cause I
Yeah,
was like, holy
I mean, you
crap.
have to at this point, right? They have like such a likable head coach, and they got a young team, that's
Exactly.
really trying to like make their resurgence back.
They've got guys on, like,
They've got
every other
talent.
ball, and it's like,
They've got
okay,
talent.
they're there. This is a team that you expect them to win some games this year. You expect them to do really well, and then you're just gonna watch. And I expect next year they get a little aggressive in free agency and in the draft, and then
Spend some money.
You expect them to then go. Go, and you don't have to necessarily. You're not gonna beat Minnesota because, as you said, Eric, you called it that, like, Minnesota was gonna be really freaking good.
Yeah,
I think we all said they were going to be good. I didn't expect them to beat the brakes off Green Bay, but you expect the Lions to be able, in a couple years, when Aaron Rodgers retires, to compete for that wild card spot out of the NFC North.
No, they'll be competing for the title for the North. I think.
the Lions will.
Yeah, I
Lions
think
could compete for
they-
the title.
I think
think
they
they're going
will,
to get
yeah.
that. They're going to get that wild.
No,
card
I mean,
spot.
I'm talking about the division. I'm not talking about Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like,
No, but you could easily see the Vikings 1, Lions 2 in the next 2 years when you think Aaron Rodgers is kind of done.
yeah.
Easily.
Since we're talking about the Lions so much, the Eagles are right there too. I mean, we expected their offense to be good. Jalen Hurts got his wide receiver 1. AJ Brown had a hell of a game, hell of a first
Hell of a
game. For 10 catches, 155 yards, no touchdowns, but still, like, he saw 13 looks, caught 10 of them. He looked
Yeah.
outstanding,
He
and
looked
he looked
great.
happy to be there.
He did.
He's like, I've got a quarterback. I'm in a good offense right now. Like, I mean, coming from Tennessee, where you're just like, oh, Derrick Henry's got the ball again. I'm gonna go shove my shoulder into this corner's face again and see what happens. Like,
He went from
I
an
feel
offense-
good for AJ Brown. I feel good for him.
He went from an offense that was very much a one, we're going to run the ball, and then we've got like we're almost running an ace set where you've got 2 tight ends and 2 receivers, and you're just kind of running a play action, or you're running a run play, and you're running a this, and you're like, that's what you're kind of running. And he went from that to a team that's like, oh, we've got like 4 running backs. Like, who gives a crap? Like, oh, we got you and Devonta Smith. Like, let's go throw the ball a little bit. We got Dallas Goedert there too. We've got these guys that can go and play. On top of the fact you've got Jalen,
You've got a versatile quarterback that's in his third year. It's his third year.
Also, me personally, you've got the best backup quarterback in the league, in my opinion, being Gardner Minshew. But That's just me. You do though.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not worried about that team if Jalen gets hurt, but Jalen is so good that like
so
that
damn good.
offense is humming right now.
I mean, he made some throws where I was like, could have been better. And I think the offense, but once the offense got into the red zone, you have so many options down in the red zone. You have all these running backs.
Can't let them get to the
They
red
scored
zone.
4 different rushing touchdowns. Where 4 rushing touchdowns with 4 different players.
Yeah, you can't beat.
And of course, they had the pick 6. Like you have this, I wouldn't say monster of like a running back room, but you have Miles Sanders who's good. You have Jalen Hurts who is basically a running back that can throw, similar to Lamar Jackson. It's just This is Jalen Hurts' breakout year. The Eagles are going to make the playoffs, and I think they could go pretty deep this year now that they have a solidified wide receiver 1 in AJ Brown.
You could easily see them being in that NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think I'm rooting for him. I got a buddy that's Eagles fan, and he's been down bad the last few years, so I'm happy for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like, you have those great games, right? And then, like we were talking about, there were just some garbage games. And then you have, I think, the biggest question mark of the week. What the fuck is up with the Colts in this game, dude?
You just got to give the ball to Jonathan Taylor at this point.
You got to give the ball to Jonathan. Michael Pittman goes 9 for 121 and a tud. And you
tie
lose?
with the Texans.
You tie? Technically, that's not a loss. You tie the Texans. This team that everybody had written off because it's Davis Mills and Dameon Pierce and Brandon Cooks, and that is their team.
That Colts offensive line didn't look that hot.
No, after just paying Quentin Nelson,
you
just paid
him.
Did not look good.
I mean, you look at the box score without looking at the score. You look at the box score here from the Colts side: 352 yards for Matt Ryan, a touchdown and a pick. You say, okay, they produced in the run game. Jonathan Taylor, 31 carries, 161 yards, fantastic. 1 touchdown. You say, really? You have all these yards, and you didn't score?
Yeah.
Against the Texans?
It's
like you got there, but like just something, one little. I think the Colts are going to be okay, just based off of like the offensive numbers from what I saw. Mm-hmm. But like, you need to win this game. Like, come on.
You have to win that game. Them losing this game could be the difference between them being number 1 in their division and them being a wild card this year, because you could easily. I mean, they're in the AFC, so like not likely a wild card, but like, but if anybody else goes undefeated in their division, right? All of a sudden, it's like, ugh. You got to win those. You got to win those division games if you want a playoff spot, and they just tied one.
They just cut their kicker too.
They brought in a kicker already, and they have 2 or 3 more that they've worked out.
Good for them.
I feel like it's gonna be a lot of teams this week.
They brought in 2. They brought in a rookie, and then they brought in a veteran. And they got
I feel like a lot of teams are looking at kickers this week because kicker Scots were not good.
This was a bad week to be a kicker. This was a bad week to be a kicker in general.
It's a week 1 jitters. That's all I'm chalking it up to. And
maybe Ninja is right.
Sorry, one quick little thing on the Texans-Colts game. Mm-hmm. The Colts were down in this game 20-3 at one point, and they scored 17 unanswered in the fourth quarter. Like, I think they're going to be okay, but you got to start producing that fourth quarter offense in the first quarter, and then you really got to get Jonathan Taylor going, because Jonathan Taylor can put games away easily. He's the guy that can put games away. You got to let Matt Ryan. You got to
get those. You got to get those 17 in that first quarter, and then ride that. Because that's a dagger when you go up 17 zip. Imagine like if that's
you're like, oh my god, they have Jonathan Taylor and this great offensive line
all day. Absolutely. Yeah.
But I mean, at this point, right now, credit to the Texans. I don't know how good they're going to be the rest of the year, but good for them.
Good for them. That's all I'm saying. I agree.
Good for them.
I do want to hit on yours and my team, Eric, a little bit. Chargers, good dub. Sucks. You're gonna scary dub. Came down kind of to the wire there at the end. But I think we all kind of expected the Chargers to take that dub.
I mean,
you might not have expected. I expected it to be.
But
I expected that. I was like, there's no way that the Raiders beat the Chargers. But I think what really was telling was the difference in looks on the Raiders side of when they looked at Devontae, which was like all the time.
It was like it was actually kind of insane to me how often they threw to Devontae Adams, which, I mean, it makes sense. He's
The
top
best
two receiver in the league,
Yeah.
best receiver in the league, in my opinion. But you also have guys like Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller, and you have a great running back in Josh Jacobs, who, by the way, Josh Jacobs got kind of bottled up by the Chargers'
Yeah.
new look run defense. Very good run defense,
Did.
which was our glaring issue last year. Was the run defense. We held them to 64 yards on the ground this week. So that's great news.
You guys played great.
We picked Derek Carr off 3 times. We sacked him 5 times. Khalil Mack, 3 sacks. Do you miss him, Diesel? Do you miss him?
Not really. I hope he has a great time in L.A.
He will. He's gonna. They can't double him.
Keep him
or
healthy.
Bosa.
They're gonna. I mean,
He's got someone beside him now. I mean, when 2018 happened, he had Leonard Floyd on the other side. I mean, I'm not saying Leonard Floyd's Bosa, but I mean, Floyd was just was a good other side rusher for Mac.
Yeah.
and even Roquan too.
Yeah.
You know, so back when he was on the Bears, but no, I think you guys looked good. Like Herbert looked good. The offense looked good. I mean, Mike Williams needs some more fucking catches, please and thank you. But other than that, hey, great start.
My only thing about the offense was in the second half, we could have easily put our foot on their throats, up 17-3 at the half, and said, "All right, we have a top 5 quarterback in the league, and we're going to kill you right now." But we didn't. But our offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, addressed that after the game. He was like, the offensive play calling got conservative in the second half. He acknowledged it, so that was good. So I think hopefully, like if we maybe have a lead next week in Kansas City, we're not just going to get conservative and let Patrick Mahomes back into the game. It's
Patrick Mahomes who just threw for 5 fucking touchdowns.
He's
always in the game, buddy. He's always in the game.
Yeah, that's true too. But I mean, I think he hit 9 different receivers. Herbert did, which is good news in my eyes.
Yeah, no, great news. Kind of going back, yeah. No, you guys did great. I was really happy with that game. Real quick,
the throws that Herbert makes are so incredible, though. I mean, it's insane, man. He's literally a superstar, man.
Turn this podcast from 1 to 2 hours just talking about the throws he made.
We can make
this week and last year.
2 hours just talking about. Yeah,
it's just so insane. He made 2 throws this week that were ridiculous to me. There was a throw to Keenan Allen on a crosser route tucked between 3 defenders, and then he hit DeAndre Carter for a touchdown right up the seam, which was beautiful. It's going to be a great game next week.
So I want to toot my horn for a little bit. Fucking, like I said, Mahomes, 5 touchdowns in a game that was so bad that they switched our game to the Chargers-Raider games, and the guy over the TV goes, "We're going to switch you to a game that's more interesting." Literally.
That's what happened in that game?
That's what happened on my TV. He goes, "Hey, everybody who's watching the Chiefs-Cardinals game, we're going to switch you to a game that's more interesting. We're going to send you to the guys in L.A." And
no way.
That's what was said on my TV. I was like, what in the hell? I was enjoying it. But, talking about throwing different receivers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 different receivers for Mahomes that he hit. I mean, sure, everybody, no surprise, Travis Kelce was number 1 with 8 of 121 and a tud.
Yeah. Juju had a good game, too.
Juju had a great game. I liked what I saw out of some of the other guys, some of the other catches. I mean, glad Mecole got the touchdown, but, I felt like we could have used him seen a little bit more out of him. MVS looked all right. Sky Moore in his first regular season game gets a 1 for 30. I was really happy with that. So, good things. The only thing that scares me is we had 5 team fumbles. You can't have that.
I see that right here. Yeah, he only lost 1, but Jesus.
Yeah.
The Chargers, I think, forced 3 last week, but 2 of them were on Carr.
Yeah.
2 of them are on Carr, so that's not a huge deal. But
no, it's not as big.
Mahomes isn't going to fumble against. I mean, maybe once if
Yeah.
if Bosa gets to him. But that is a little scary because I remember last year I forgot what week it was, but when the Chiefs played the Chargers in Kansas City for the first game, we forced 2 or 3 fumbles in the first quarter and a half of that game.
You did. And
that was kind of
That's
wild.
one of the things that was like, and that was the whole thing with Clyde, and then part of the reason why we had to kind of switch up our running back room a little bit was because we needed that. We needed to prevent that from happening. And I mean, one of these that's on here is Chad Henne. Like, obviously, he's probably not going to see the game this week, right? Like, we can kind of expect it. You also sit here and say, okay, Isaiah Pacheco, probably because he actually started running. We used him as our running back running the ball because we didn't want Clyde to get hurt. So we were using Pacheco, and it was like, okay, he's a rookie. He's a 5th or 6th round rookie. Like, yeah, he's probably going to make a fumble there. Juju fumbling too scares me a little bit.
I think he just tries to do too much. That's really what I see from Juju.
And I'm sure hopefully they'll harp on him a little bit on that this week.
First game with a superstar, like,
first
you're going to try to show out.
He actually was, like, doing well again, because, like, he had the, corpse of Big Ben for the last 2 years. So,
yeah.
But I want to. You and I were talking. We want to look to next week, and be like, okay, what is the game this next week? And I think there isn't really much of a question. Like, there's one of 2 choices. And I think you and I both are going to say the same game here.
Chargers Chiefs,
Thursday Night Football, in Arrowhead Stadium. It's gonna be electric. It's gonna be. I want it. I kind of want it to be that game. Patrick Mahomes is either first or second year as a starter, opening up against the Rams, and it was like 52-50 at the end of the game or whatever the hell it was.
That game would just stress me out. I'd rather the defense actually show up for both teams.
I want a Herbert versus Mahomes match. Like, that's what I want right here.
That would be fun, though.
It would be so
that'd be fun. It'd be fun, but just so like.
Amazonic Sex would love that.
Oh, well, exactly. First game on Amazon Prime. Come on, you got to have a 100-point game. But
Chargers are going to be without Keenan Allen though, which is tough for us. But I mean, we have the wide receiver depth. We showed that.
Potentially without J.C. Jackson.
J.C. Jackson, he's up in the air. They said he looked good. He maybe could have played this week, so that's optimistic for Thursday. And I think we could definitely use him. But Mahomes just has so many options. On that team. I think it's the same for both sides. Like, you guys are missing Trent McDuffie, we're missing J.C. Jackson, but either way, both quarterbacks have so many options. Like, does it really matter that much?
Harrison Butker, so as of right now, he didn't practice today. I don't know if he'll practice at all up until the game, and then it'll be a game time decision as to if he'll play. And if not, that changes the game a lot because we don't feel comfortable kicking field goals or many extra points with Justin Reed as our kicker, although he did do decent on Sunday playing that. He went 1 for 1 in field goals and 1 of 2 in field goals and 1 of 2 in extra points, I think.
I mean,
not
bad,
but
could have been worse.
If we're going up against a division rival who we could easily be talking about seeing again in the playoffs, you want your best chance. If that means you bring in a backup kicker and you bump Shane Buechele back into the practice squad, do it. Bring in a kicker for a week. I don't care.
I mean, it definitely gives you a better chance.
Give me the best chances
having a safety.
Only other game that I think is worth like really watching this week is Bucs Saints, just because Tom Brady hasn't beaten the Saints yet since he went to Tampa Bay. And Saints didn't look terrible this last week, so I mean, fantasy-wise, they weren't great, but they didn't look terrible.
My thing with that game, I think the Bucs are going to win, specifically because the Buccaneers' defense looks so good on opening night for them. And I mean, I'm not super high on Jameis Winston over in New Orleans. I mean, really, anything could happen, but I don't know. I mean, the Saints beat the Falcons, who are known for choking. Their offense was, meh.
Again,
Michael Thomas is. It's good to see him back.
It is good to see him back. It is good to see him back. I go back to Tom Brady hasn't beaten the Bucs yet. So there is a little bit of like defensive favor that way. I'm not gonna base the Bucks defense on Cooper Rush and the ghost
They had
of
Dak
Zeke.
Prescott for most of the game.
Yeah, but even like, I'm sorry, this Dallas team to me just isn't good. And my dad, who's
They're in
probably going to
shambles.
listen to this, is going
Dude.
to text me and be like,
Makes
"What the
me
fuck?"
so happy
But-
to see him in shambles.
My God, bro. When
They're so
they had
bad.
when they did that trick play on the first try, I was like, "Yo, what's going on here?"
Mike
Trying
McCarthy
to
is
set the
getting
tone.
fired after this year in that team. There's no way if they don't like, they're not gonna go, and he's gonna get this Dak injury is might be the only reason why he keeps his job, because otherwise the man should be gone. He should.
Cam Newton's gonna come in and save the day, bro.
From everything that they're saying,
Stop.
they're not gonna bring in Cam Newton. They're gonna stick with Cooper Rush, and I'm like, you're garbage.
Cooper Rush beat Oklahoma State in 2016.
Yeah, bro,
That
anything's
was
possible.
college. They all know that that's different.
Hey, Cooper beat Minnesota last year, man. Anything's possible.
Minnesota last year was Wisconsin.
It's true.
I mean,
They
yeah.
ran the fucking ball all the time.
Wisconsin with one good wide receiver.
You know. And hey,
I mean-
yeah. If you told me that Cooper Rush beat the Vikings of this year, like, okay, different.
That's a different story.
But it's not. That's not the same team. It's
Let
not.
me just say one thing.
Yeah.
If the Bears do beat Green Bay, because I will just say this:
Oh,
Aaron Rodgers,
one year
Aaron
after
Rodgers.
he owned you.
Hold on. Aaron Rodgers is about 2 starters on the offensive line, possibly
Potentially.
2 starters, and Lazard may not play again.
Yeah.
So I mean, if
Wait, Green Bay's a 10-point favorite in this game?
somehow, yeah.
Yeah.
Still,
Bet the Bears. Bet the Bears. It's all. I'm saying.
dude, I'm
I'm
telling
not
you,
I'm not a gambling
look,
advisor,
man,
but
I-
bet the
How
Bears.
good's your run
I'm
defense,
telling-
though? Because A.J. Dillon's good.
So is
it was actually
Aaron
pretty
Jones?
good. They were pretty good against Elijah Mitchell, and that San
before he
Francisco
fucked
team.
up his legs.
Yeah, and like they shut down Debo. Like I was actually kind of shocked
That
on
is
what
That
they
made me
did.
sad. I have him in a fantasy league.
That is true.
But no, dude, their defense is pretty. They did the job. They did really well. Like I mean, of course, it's Chicago. They're always gonna have a good defense. So I'm not really worried about the defense. It's more of Justin Fields and that offense. You know, they can't start slow against Green Bay. They got away with it. Yeah,
Well,
Justin
I think
Fields
that
complete more than 8 passes in a full game.
yeah, for real.
you also have to know that Aaron Rodgers is going to come out with a fire and something to prove after this last week, and he's going to have
of
ripped
course.
those goddamn receivers
it wouldn't-
apart.
It wouldn't shock me if the Bears win 24-21, but it wouldn't shock me if the Bears lose 42-10.
That would shock me. Honestly, that would shock me. With the way Green Bay looked against Minnesota.
I mean,
I can't.
Maybe, but like
I
I,
can't
don't
believe
know.
it at 42-10. Now,
Maybe 28 to
28
13.
Yeah,
Yeah,
20
maybe.
to 13. You're talking 35-13, 35-15, some weird fucking crap like that.
I don't think they're gonna blow them out. I think it's gonna be. I think it'll be close. But I think it's if you're betting, if you could bet, I would pick the under for sure. I mean, that's how I
Their
feel.
defenses are fairly decent going into this game, so you're talking about, it's again.
Well,
it
the
goes back-
over-unders... Sorry, go ahead, bro.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. What's the over?
I was going to say the over-unders at 42.5 at the moment.
I'm
42 and a
definitely
half.
taking the under on that.
21-17
Yeah.
final. Bang.
Something
Under.
like that. Yeah.
Just 17-6 final. Yep. Fuck it. Fuck it, bro.
It's
Horrible primetime game.
Exactly. Hey, that's okay. That the next night we'll have Vikings and Eagles. We'll be
Yeah,
fine.
That's a good one.
Vikings Eagles on Monday is gonna be a great game. I'm definitely gonna be
Yeah.
tuning into that. For
There's 2 Monday night games.
Yeah.
you got the Titans Bills at 6:15, but
Oh,
I
Bills are going
sleep.
to kill those guys.
Yeah, dude.
Josh Allen is just gonna fucking run over the whole Titans.
I know we did talk about, but I'll say one thing quick. I am so glad to see Saquon Barkley back too.
That too. I forgot.
Dude,
We wanted to touch on
oh
that. We wanted to
I'm
touch on that.
so glad
So glad
because
that he's
the
back to
dude
playing.
has so much potential to be the number 1 running back in the league, and he proved it again. He just needs to stay healthy, and now he's got an offensive-minded coach that's actually good.
Yeah,
So it
Daniel
should
Jones
work.
was 17 of 21 this week.
Daniel Jones didn't look bad. Like this
Yeah,
is the
no.
crazy thing with that team is that like we said it like they're very young. If Dable could come out and like win a couple of games this year, you don't have to win a bunch. You win 5, 6. You
start
Build
beat the
momentum.
Cowboys both times. You beat the Commanders once. Something like that. That hot take, but
Yeah.
You,
Build momentum going into the future. That's all you gotta do. That's the same thing with Chicago. I mean, build momentum.
And Daniel,
Like-
sure you didn't pick up Daniel Jones' 5th-year option, but had you picked up his 5th-year option going into next year, a second year in this system, he might actually be really good. And then you got to pay him a lot.
I don't know, man. I think I don't think Daniel Jones is the long-term thing with them.
But is he gonna be?
If they're in the Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud sweepstakes, they're gonna go after one of those guys.
100%. You have to.
You have to. At that point, it just depends on how many wins you're going to get, because there are some other teams that can easily end up in those sweepstakes at the end of the year. I'm looking at a couple of different teams that could end up. I mean, if Tom Brady is actually done this year, Tampa Bay is not going to be in the sweepstakes, but Tampa Bay is going to want a quarterback. They might be willing to trade away some of their more expensive pieces to get up into those higher spots for a quarterback, because obviously, if you're not going to go to the Super Bowl, you don't need to pay all those vets all that money.
Atlanta,
well, yeah, Atlanta,
they
definitely.
have Mariota right now.
You got Ritter, you just get to. So, unless if Ritter's going to be a career backup, which is possible.
Yeah.
So,
can see that.
but Atlanta's got so many other pieces they got to fix too. I don't know how much I really want. Like, let's just go all in on a quarterback right now. Like, you got to get some other pieces around, bro.
They're like in the Uber rebuild at the
I
moment.
would have said the Titans if Malik Willis hadn't looked decent this offseason. So I really think that he's going to be the future there. I mean, I don't think if Aaron Rodgers were to be done, which I don't think he's going to be done this year, Jordan Love didn't look terrible this offseason, so like they probably roll with that. You look at, obviously not the Cardinals, probably not the Raiders either, definitely not Cowboys or Bengals, definitely not 49ers. Seahawks would be the only team I can think of right there. That's
Seahawks big time.
Yeah.
But they just won this week. Geno Smith might be the guy.
What the fuck are they doing?
What are you doing? You're supposed to lose that game.
Otherwise, Cleveland. Unless if you really think that
Unless Deshaun comes out and lights it up in the second half of the season.
Not Cleveland. I'm looking at somebody from Panthers.
There you go. Yeah,
Panthers.
Baker's a big question mark right now. You get a good fourth quarter,
that
but
second half of that game, he looked great. He looked good. Like he
looked like the Baker, I don't know.
He looked like the Baker
compare
that had
him
that
to Cleveland.
moxie when he was in college. He had that moxie again.
The air raid Baker.
Mm-hmm. And we hadn't really seen a whole lot of that moxie from him. I'm kind of hoping that second half carries. I wish he had gotten it earlier to be able to beat Cleveland, but new system, new everything, understandably just there. But
Yep.
Well, I think that's going to do us for this week, chaps.
I think we covered just about
everything
we wanted to.
Yeah. Hope, next week we'll get some more recap on college football games and our game of the week and probably be a couple other crazy games that happen through the NFL.
Looking forward to
it.
Football season's back, baby. Let's
Football
go.
season is back.
The machine is back.
Let's go.
Rolling through September. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy, actually.
It is scary.
You got that, and then you've got everything else is going to start picking up too.
Playoff baseball.
Pretty soon here. Pretty soon, yep. I was going to say, I just got a notification Aaron Judge hit his 57th home run.
57th?
57th.
He hit another one tonight?
He hit another one tonight.
Oh my god, that dude is different.
So
good for him.
Yeah, but that baseball is coming.
I'll probably focus on baseball when Albert Pujols actually is on the 700 home run watch.
Yeah.
I think that'll be the time to get back on the
stick around just to hit that number. But
yeah, he's at 697 right now. I think
he'll get there. Yeah, he's at 697. Yeah. He's going to get there before the end of the season. I'm rooting for him. Yeah. Former Angel Albert Pujols.
Yeah. Anyways, well, that's going to do it for us this week, and we'll catch you all next week, I guess. Yeah, guys, it was great to talk to you, and